I've been spending a lot of time trying to clean up and polish some of the spare parts for the Evil Twin project. But I do have some time today to do another little project that I've been waiting for a day like today to do. One of the little detailed changes I wanted to make to this motorcycle, I wanted to polish this up. This looks like a good day to do it. One of many little parts that I kind of make a list up and I check them off as I go, parts that need to be polished on. And there's little stuff on every motorcycle that from time to time either needs polishing or repolishing. And on a day like today, it's a terrible rainy day, we'll get a couple of these little parts done. And when it's lousy and raining, I don't have any illusions about going for any rides today until it clears up. Good day to do some polishing. Now it's a good idea anytime you're working around brake fluid, get some old towels around it. Don't want to get any of that brake fluid on the paint. Kind of a simple job, 2 screws and that part will be out. Wipe off all the brake fluid and be ready to polish it. So step 1 is we have this part off the motorcycle. It's pretty clean. If it wasn't, I'd want to clean it up first. And it looks like it's relatively smooth, even though it's a casting. It's a very high quality casting. So we might be able to just go over to the buffing wheel and buff this finish off and put a nice high polish finish on it. And I do love the look of polished aluminum. I just never get sick of looking at polished aluminum. Now if this part were a rough casting, we'd want to sand it first and get it smooth before we buff it. But in this case, that finish might come right off. I don't know. I don't know until I try it. What I wanted to show, let me just wipe this off. We basically got rid of the finish very, very quickly. So step 1 is, and I'm using black compound now just to grind off the finish. But it looks like that's going to be a pretty nice smooth casting, and then we'll go on to the finer polishes to get a nice shine on it. Now the black compound is good for removing the old finish, but it really doesn't leave as shiny of a finish as we can do, because aluminum, when it's polished up right, it really does polish up beautifully. So the thing I want to do now, now that I have it to this level, I want to take it to the next level with the white compound on a separate mandrel. Now you might think there'd be some special formula for figuring this out, but there really isn't. But just a rough idea. The black compound, at least the stuff I have, this is from Harbor Freight. The black compound is the roughest. It takes a lot of material off. The red is somewhere in between, and you never know, with there's red, green, blue, there's a million others, but they're somewhere in between, and they have a specialty purpose for polishing aluminum, brass, copper, chrome. But always at the very end of it, the white compound. And believe it or not, I got one of these bars. I got both of them. In fact, I ought to show this. Let me show it. This is really worthwhile. Turbo Steve was at Harbor Freight, and he bought the whole kit from me as a little payback, because I bought him a salami sandwich or something. Now it's funny. This is what Turbo Steve donated to the A-Team, and thank you, Steve, of course. But just look at, you get 2 buffing wheels, and you get the red and the white. The white is usually, unless there's some other material that buffs differently, but aluminum typically buffs red to white. And this thing is under $4. So and you have the coupon, you probably get another 20% off. It's probably $2.50. I don't know how you can go wrong with this. But again, Harbor Freight. And the stuff, it works perfect. Now, what would be nice is if there was a definite formula and you just followed step 1, step 2, but there isn't. The real formula is you have to try everything, and every piece of metal, the hardness of the metal, if it's a casting or an extrusion, everything buffs just a little different. It's an art, not a science. So, but this wheel has never had anything on it but white compound. So this should take, now it would take, if you started with white, it would take forever to buff it, but the shine would be, of course, a little bit brighter. Now I invested in, I don't have it yet, it's probably going to be here this week, a very, very high quality polishing system called FLITZ. And they had a sale on Amazon, a bargain thing that I just couldn't say no to. But the FLITZ is really high quality stuff. I mean, we're using old Harbor Freight stuff here. We're getting, I think, really good results, but the FLITZ is really like a professional grade stuff. So we're gonna definitely have that video out within a week, I hope. You never know. Anyway, let me just get a little piece of microfiber here. I'm going to spend some time at the wheel here with the white compound, but I think you can see the white brought it up. You can see the part that isn't white, and well, the top here is just a little shinier, but we're going to work on it. Then the best thing I've ever found is just try each one of the compounds, and if you have, in a perfect world, you'd have a separate wheel for red, separate for black, separate for white. I have a few random wheels, but I tend to just rake the wheel, run a screwdriver across it, and use the next compound. That's not really the right way to do it, but I do get good results. I just work at it very hard. Now, as we go through the polishing steps, you can see each one, the part gets a little bit brighter and nicer, and I always think I love the look of, I just really do love the look of polished aluminum. And I think of Tim's Norton and how beautiful that looks sparkling in the sun. Now, the next step on this is going to be the fur wheel, and that's the final step. Now, this is what I call the fur wheel, and this comes, of course, in one of the kits you get from Harbor Freight. It comes with the mandrel. This peels off and you can replace it. All this is, and I don't know who that, it's probably fake fur, who knows. Harbor Freight, it's got to be fake. So, but it works great. And this puts the final, no polish, no wax, nothing. This just puts the final shine on the part. We got no compound, no wax. And if you're patient, enough to do this for 10 or 15 minutes, you will really have a beautiful part. And it'll stay that way for a long time. And what this does, this really brings it to the next level. Now, as I'm wiping this off with a clean microfiber, of course, I want to make sure there aren't some master cylinder cover. There's always a bleed that you can't clog up, and I don't want to, I'll clean this with some, in the inside, immaculately clean, because I don't want to have that, anything contaminate the brake fluid. But that, talk about seeing yourself in the mirror, wow. That is really nice. Now, one of the things I found that's good to have, I'll put this on the video too. I bought some of this because this is what this polish is good for. It's not good on a buffing wheel. I found that out the hard way. But it's called white diamond. Relatively expensive, and I like to deal with inexpensive stuff if possible. And the advantage of putting, I'll put some of that white diamond on here. What white diamond is good for is when you've already polished up a part, 2 months later, 3 months later, it starts to dull, or you ride in the rain. The white diamond puts a nice finish, or rejuvenates the finish on it. But that, I don't know if you can see it on the video. That's, you know, it goes this way. No kidding around. That came out. You know, get those fingerprints off of there. That's about as good as it gets. And all done with Harbor Freight, inexpensive stuff. Even the buffing wheel is from Harbor Freight. Anyway, Karen's been tracking the FLITZ package. It's going to be here in 3 days. So I'm really looking forward to that. Now, FLITZ there's a difference. This is the things we're using. The grits are relatively gritty, so they remove a lot of material. The FLITZ product is a 6,000 grit. I'm really looking forward to trying it. And what I'll have is I'll have parts that have already been polished. I could repolish them. Anyway, that's coming. As soon as I finish that video, I'll post that too. Now, I always think it's nice because this is a part we're going to see while we're riding the motorcycle. We're going to see it a lot, in fact, from the riding position. That makes it even more appealing to me to have it done. Now, as long as I have a little bit of time, and this part went so well, it went so quick and so relatively easy. This part I have a feeling is, because it's a casting too, it's going to need a little more work, maybe some light sanding with 2000 grit, but I think that'll polish up nice, and it just adds a nice little look while you're riding a motorcycle. And every little thing you detail out, all of the bikes here, I haven't spent giant amounts of money on them, but I've spent endless amount of time detailing and personalizing them. And again, this is a casting. You're only going to see the top piece, but I'm going to have to get some of this material off. I don't think, and this is probably got some kind of plating on it, I'm not sure. No matter what, we will grind it off. Before I do anything, I want to see if these bolts are going to polish up. I'd like to get a nicer finish than that on there. Of course, just run them on a buffing wheel. I'm not sure the macro lens shows the difference as well as it should, but they did polish up nice. Now what happens is these bolts have they're either stainless steel or they're plated, because they really did polish up nice. That's amazing. Sometimes they can be a bear to get them to shine up like that. Now I will do a little test and see if I can get some of this finish off with the with the buffing wheel with the black compound, but I have a feeling I'm going to have to 2000 grit sand it. But let's see. You never know. You got to roll the dice here. And sometimes you can break right through that finish. If it's, who knows? It's mystery meat right now. Let's see. Alright, mystery solved. Now you can see, if you look at how this, I'm not sure you can really see this, it's been plated or painted with something that's really difficult to burnish off. So what I'm going to try to do, well, I'll see if I can get that off with some 2000 grit paper. I don't know, maybe that'll take it off a little bit easier. Now I'm just leery that this is 2000 grit Rhino wet. Anything rougher than this is going to leave sanding scratches that I'm going to see. So, again, if this doesn't do it conveniently, then we have to just grind it out on a buffing wheel, and it'll take a while. Yeah, it's just taking it off. You can see it just takes a lot of time. It's going to start going through the edges. It'll just be probably 20 minutes or so to get that off. Now this is a really useful tip. These are they're soft, and they have, I know they're for sale at beauty supply places. They're $1,500, $1,200, whatever they are. They're good for this. Now see, here's the problem. You could rub with your finger in there and sand that to the cows come home, your finger is just too round to get in the corners. Well, what these allow you to do, and again, they're soft, I can get right in the corner there and get out all this finish. Now, it looks like, when I started grinding through this, it looks like they did like an anodizing black and then sprayed on some flat black, which I'm glad to have off the motorcycle, of course. And what these allow me to do is get in all the corners. They're good. Now, if I wanted to, at the very end, I'll wrap this in the 2000 grit, and it'll, see, a lot of times, just how do you get in there and get the material out? There's no buffing wheels going to go in there. You got to do some of this by hand. But I want to detail it out. I want it to be as good as I can make it anyway. And that, by the way, is a great, from the modeling tip. We used to use these all the time. They're just ordinary nail files. They're available in beauty supply places, and they allow you to get in places where you'd never be able to get otherwise. Now, the next step, the SOS pad is a good thing because you can get in all these areas. I'm not going to worry about in there because the bolts cover it up. Not going to worry about any parts that I don't show visibly, because I want to spend the time on the parts that I do see. Now, this will take some of the 2000 grit sanding scratches out. Not all, of course. See, now a part like this, on some parts, if they're just painted, it pays to use paint remover. Well, paint remover is useless if the part has, if it's plated underneath it, anodized or any finish that's not paint. This will get some of the scratches out, and then we go over to the wheel. After this, the next step will be to get the black compound and see how that's going to start buffing up. First cut with the black compound. Get some of the sanding scratches out. The black is starting to bring up the gloss just a little bit. Now what we'll do is after this I'll rake the wheel, give it a cut with red, and then rake the wheel and cut it with white. That's really starting to come up good, and what I'm going to need is I'm going to need one of these to get down inside there. Some of the little polishers, and I wanted to show them. Let me get one of these little ones out to get down inside here. It's just good to always have, and let me just show. Pretty much all the shapes and sizes that you need to do one of these parts. It's starting to come out pretty nice. It's going to add a really nice touch to the motorcycle too. And the final step is our fur wheel. No compound, just the fur wheel. I'm not sure if you can see the, because again, when you look at these videos on a little telephone, you don't really see a lot. When I look at them on my 70-inch TV, wow, I see everything. I see things you never see on a telephone. Well, this piece certainly didn't disappoint me. It turned out really nice. And I think for all the time I'll be riding a motorcycle and looking down at this part, I'll be glad I spent the time today. Didn't lose anything but a rainy day. Time to go install it on a bike. Well, it's added a nice little touch to the motorcycle, that's for sure. Another small detail. And every one of the bikes has small details on it that I think have added to my enjoyment of owning them and riding them and sharing the information on YouTube. So, hope you enjoyed the video, and of course, thanks for watching.